Hello and welcome to today's podcast. Today we'll be talking with Paula about her struggles with exercising, overexercising, undereating, and how she takes care of her body now. So stay tuned. All right, I'm here with Paula and I'm so excited to have her here today. So Paula, go ahead and start to share your story.
I think it kind of starts in, I want to say junior high. Um and I remember, so we both did cheer. I remember that we sometimes had like tumbling classes and stuff. And so I was on the cheer team and I was doing a competitive dance team, and I think they like started to teach a lot about like weight and the BMI and body mass index and everything uh in gym class and stuff, and like that was a required class. And so I became very hyper aware of kind of my body and things, and it became pretty upsetting to me. And so I remember my sophomore year, I enjoy running, but I also feel like I was doing way more than I should have been doing for the amount of food I was allowing myself to eat. And I would go, so I had cheer practice in like the summers in the morning at 7 a.m. And I'd get up at 5 a.m. and I'd go for a run for like, I don't know, it just depended on the day, but I'd go for a run. Then sometimes I'd go home and I'd go back to sleep for a little bit, and then I'd get up and I'd go to cheer. Or I'd just go straight to cheer. And then after that, I'd go straight to tumbling. And then I usually like had some kind of dance or something after. And I was so happy because like I was seeing the results I wanted to, but I didn't like realize how unhealthy it was. Um, and so my sophomore year, I like when it began, that was like during the summer before sophomore year. When it began, I got a concussion. And so I was really upset because I had made all this progress and it was a really bad concussion with cheer. And so I was now not able to work out. And so then I was even more worried about like restricting food and different things because I felt like that was going to be a problem. And then my family also was very concerned about what they were eating and stuff. So they started doing the Whole30. I don't know if you've heard of that, but
Yeah.
you cut out like everything.
Yeah.
And so when that happened, then I thought that I had to do that too. And so I started cutting out foods. I didn't mind if I like skipped lunch or breakfast and just ate like once a day. And like I didn't even like I just always blame it like, oh, I'm just so busy. I just don't have time and stuff. And I didn't even realize it. And so then it kind of got better. I feel like for my junior year and everything was great.
Yeah.
Then I started to really struggle my senior year. Um, and that was also because like I was having a lot of illness too and anxiety, and I had acid reflux really bad. So I just, if anything did happen, I'd be like, oh, it's just because I have acid reflux and stuff. And I wouldn't like admit. So I remember at the end of my senior year, I had a lot of anxiety and stuff going on and acid reflux. It was already hard to eat because of my anxiety. And then on top of like fear foods and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
Um, I remember I walked into cheer practice one day, or maybe it was like at a church thing. I don't know. I saw somebody on my cheer team. They're like, "Oh my gosh, like you're looking so good. Like, what are you doing?" And I just looked at her and I just said, "I'm sick. I'm really sick." And so, but I was just again still blaming that on like physical things. I don't think it was until like I went to college and I had moved away at Bear Lake, and I continued to restrict food, but I got a little bit better. But when I went on my LDS mission, I went to Mexico. And it's super rude to say no to any food there. Like you at least have to try stuff.
Yeah.
And they like 5 course meals. Like and that was really traumatizing for me, going from fear foods. And I don't think I realized how much it was for me emotionally, that there were some times that like I just like sob at night, like thinking about how much I would have to eat because it was so hard. But it also healed me a lot. And I think that like God kind of knew that that was what I needed. And it wasn't until like after I came home from my mission and I took a nutrition class at SUU, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I struggled really bad with eating disorders for a long time.
Yeah.
And just a lot of different things, but I would never have admitted that to myself in high school. I remember my sister would always like make comments about it, but I was never willing to be like, oh yeah, like I never admitted that I had a problem until like hindsight.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing, Paula. So, Paula, tell me a little bit about things that made you feel that your body wasn't good enough from the very beginning. Because I know you mentioned like cheer, but were there things that people had said to you or experiences in your life that brought that about?
Yeah, like I had friends that would make comments on my body, or sometimes like my family would make comments and like compare bodies and stuff. And then my best friend at the time and their family, I feel like kind of like they were like very fit and very like had like the perfect body, like what I thought. And like genetics are different and stuff, and I didn't like grasp that. And so there was kind of that. And growing up, like weight had just always been like a big thing in my house, or like as a dancer too growing up. And so people were always talking about bodies. So and there were just like little things that like would make me hate my body, like when I look in the mirror. And like I look back at pictures now, I'm like, it's so sad that I hated that so much.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to think. So, I feel like a lot of the time there are things that still linger later. And so I'm wondering for you, now that you're pregnant and your body's changed a lot and you've been and even in Mexico, like how did you deal with those thoughts when they came up when you were trying to heal and become better?
So like in Mexico, it wasn't super hard for me because like yeah, it still upset me, but like I also knew I was walking all the time. Like we walked like 13 kilometers a day. So I was never like super upset, but I always knew that like I needed to eat and I'd always try to get the right amount. It was hard because I had companion, like it wasn't a thing. I know a lot of missions schedule out time for you to have dinner. That
Yeah.
wasn't a thing in my mission.
Okay.
So I would like purposely try to help myself eat dinner. And when I like was going through everything and restricting, like I would calorie count to restrict. And now and moving forward from that, like I use, if I ever do use calorie counting, it's to make sure I'm eating enough, because I learned about how much it can damage your body if you're not eating enough. But being pregnant, it's been really, really hard. Just seeing the way that my body changes. And I'm not gonna lie, I probably cry about it like 3 to 4 times a week still right
The
now.
hormones, man.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is insane. I talked to my husband about it, and we were we were just chatting about how like I didn't realize how much healing I still had to do from what I had. Like the other night, like I was thinking about it and I was like so upset about how my body was changing. And I don't know why, I just really wanted a banana. And I started to have like that fear again of eating a banana, like of eating a food, of eating a freaking banana. And I was like, that's not good. Like, and so it's constantly retraining your brain on how to think and be like, it's okay, especially being pregnant. It's okay if you want a banana to have a banana. It's not going to be the end of the world,
Yeah.
but it's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like when I was pregnant, it for sure, you have to like realize that if my body's having a craving while I'm pregnant, I obviously need what's in that food. And
Mhm.
so I totally agree with you, but it is a constant work. Like it's constantly trying to figure out, okay, I'm in this new stage of life. How do I handle this eating disorder side of me that's talking to me negatively in my brain all the time. Because we can quiet it as much as we want, but unfortunately, we are not perfect human beings. You know that. I'm sure you taught many people that. So, but I'm wondering, Paula, before you went on your mission, was there like, did you realize besides obviously your more physical things like your acid reflux and your anxiety, do you feel as though that may have been an excuse up until you went on your mission? Or, I guess, so first question, do you feel like an excuse sounds different, but let me word it a different way. So, do you feel like before your mission, there was a point where you realized what was actually going on and didn't use the acid reflux and anxiety as an excuse for being unhealthy?
Yeah, so there was a point when at the end of my senior year when I started to realize it, because and like I think my whole family realized it. I mean, it got to the point that I lost like 16 pounds in like 2 weeks. Like it was pretty, because I was still working out, I was still doing cheer, I was still doing dance and stuff, but I wasn't fueling my body. And so it was pretty drastic. And we went on like a family trip to my parents, like take us on a senior trip, and we went to France. And like I look at myself and I look at pictures from when I'm there, and I can see how unhealthy I looked. And so I feel like that's why kind of when I moved away, like I tried to start allowing myself to do more, but I'm still kind of what I want.
I think I lost you, Paula. Are you there? There you
I
are.
am.
Hey, you're
sorry.
good. Say that one more time for me. I'm sorry.
No, you're all good. I was just saying, I feel like towards the end of my senior years when I started to notice, because I think you got into the point that I said, like, there was a point when I lost like 16 pounds in like 2 weeks. And and I was like happy about it. And there was a lot of emotional things that were going on with that too. But it's when my family, like, were like, okay, there's an issue, like, and kind of tried to make sure I was eating. That's when my dad started to notice too. So my sister had always noticed, but my dad was like, you need to eat.
Yeah.
And so I was really appreciative of that. But I look back and we have pictures from when we went to France on a senior trip. And I look back at how thin I was, but it wasn't like a toned thin. It was like a not healthy type of thing. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. So Paula, now on the other side of things, looking back, have you thought more about when you were struggling with that anxiety and acid reflux, and thought maybe about if that was your eating disorder side trying to tell you something was wrong? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know, because that would make sense, like that my brain was trying to hint at something being wrong. Because when my family did the Whole30 when I was a sophomore, my anxiety, and like I had my concussion stuff, my anxiety kind of peaked then too. And I remember sitting in the store, and I don't know if you've had like the Fiber One lemon bars.
Oh yeah.
But
yes,
I really want. But because we're like gluten free and stuff, and we're doing that. Sorry, I might have lost.
Yeah, you lost me again. So you said the lemon Fiber One bars, and then that's where it cut out. Maybe.
I remember because I wasn't like, I didn't have them for some reason.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, I don't know, you're so emotional, like, and I was crying. So, and she was like, it's okay to eat a Fiber One lemon bar. Like, again, like I was so in my head. So I feel like definitely part of it was a cry for help from my body, like being like, there's something not right here.
Yeah. So were there other things that like cry for helps from your body that you recognized besides the anxiety and acid reflux type things? I know that those might have been other things as well, but
Yeah, I think a pretty commonly known side effect of an eating disorder is like hair loss and stuff. And I dealt with that a lot.
Yeah.
Um, even on my mission still, like that was like something I feel like that lingered.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a lot of hair loss that I dealt with from the way that I was eating and treating my body at the time.
Okay, so Paula, now, as you are about to have a child and you're trying to be better than you were, what habits and things do you do to take care of your body, but to not go to that to that physically harming side, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so I did when there were like medical things, and I told you a little bit about that. And we found out I'm allergic to a lot of different things. Like I have dairy intolerances, I have a gluten intolerance that comes back positive for my blood work, eggs, nuts, shellfish, but I couldn't bring myself to cut it all out. Um, but I did end up cutting out gluten about 2 years ago,
Yeah.
just because I was sick of feeling crappy all the time.
Yeah.
And that helped me tremendously. But I still like, I'll find alternatives. Like I can still have a cookie if I want one. I'll just have like a gluten-free one. And
Yeah.
so still, and I try to also make sure that I'm eating like 3 meals a day or snacking. I like to snack more than I like to eat, like sit down and eat.
Mhm.
But I try to make sure that I'm eating consecutively, because I used to just skip a ton of meals. And so those are things that I implement. And then I've tried to be really careful when pregnant. I've had a lot of um, difficulties just even recently. And so I can't do a lot physically, but like I'll take my dog out for like a walk around. We have like a huge block. I say it's like a block, but it's probably like three. And
Yeah.
we'll just walk. And it's really good for like mental and emotional, but it's not like pushing my body to the point that it's going to hurt it, especially being pregnant.
Yeah. So how do you make sure that you don't overdo exercise? For those that will be listening that have struggled with over exercising as part of their eating disorder, what advice do you have for them, I guess?
Yeah, so I ended up having to start limit myself because I'd noticed I would go to work out and my body just like physically couldn't do it. Or I'd get in my car and I'd be so weak from how much I was pushing myself that I couldn't move my gear shift. Like, and I'd
Goodness.
have to use both hands to like push it in and pull it because I couldn't do it. And so I started realizing I was like, okay, my body has a limit. And though like you might not feel it now, it will catch you later on. And so like exercising can be super great and healthy and great for the mind. But like there is such thing as too much. And there's actually a lot of articles. I'm a psychology major, but like I also do a lot of research with stuff like that. And they've proven that if you're working out for like longer periods of time, it's actually not as helpful. And so I think, yeah. And so if you're struggling, my recommendation is like set a time limit. Like if you're gonna do it, like allow yourself to do the things that you enjoy, but like you can also find joy doing other things with your family, like and like fill your schedule with things that you're gonna enjoy and not have so much time to just focus on yourself. I feel like is most helpful with that.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much, Paula. Do you have anything else to share about your story or advice that you would give to those that might be struggling?
Um, I think like one of the biggest things is just like realizing that you're struggling. And if you even like think that you're struggling, like even a glimmer, you probably are, and it's okay. And I think one of the biggest things is just knowing that like it's not linear. Like you're gonna have days where it's up and down with your growth. And like I said, there's days when like especially being pregnant, like that I'm like, oh, this is bringing back past trauma that I didn't even realize. So, and just being patient with yourself and loving yourself. It's and like that's even advice for myself. Like I'm not perfect at that either, but I think that's the best advice I could give is try to be patient with yourself and love yourself and enjoy the body that you have now because it's such a blessing even if you don't realize it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Paula, for sharing your story, and best of luck with you and your baby.
Thank,
And I'm sure that many people here are going to learn from you. So thank you very much.
thank you so much for giving me the space and the time. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for listening to today's episode on the Beyond the Mirror podcast, Women Embracing Self-Love and Healing. If you or anyone you know has a story to share, whether it be mental health, eating disorders, body image issues, and you want to inspire others, please send me an email or a DM on my Instagram. My email is on the screen, and my Instagram is at health.hairwithad. I'd love to hear from you, and I'm sure others would love to be inspired by you. Thanks so much for listening today. We'll see you next time.